YouTube. So tonight I am here to record my video review for The Haves and the Have-Nots, Season 4, also known as Season 3, Episode 11. So tonight's episode was titled 48 Hours. So really, we can just jump right into it. So much happened tonight. It was a very emotional episode, and I believe this is the mid-season finale, and it was great. So it doesn't return back till June, so I'm gonna have to watch this episode a few times because it was just so juicy. Okay, anywho, so tonight's episode starts off with Candace walking in her house. Of course, she's waiting for Benny and the grandpa to come over. Well, somehow War, he must walk through walls. Like, seriously, he's always popping up at her house, and it's always very silent and very scary. And there was a point in time in this series where I said, oh, War is cute and stuff. But now I just think that he's like kind of like psycho. Like, for real. Like, once you get on his bad side, once you cross him just one time, he's a different person. So, like, of course, every single time she sees him, he's always, like, looking down at her with, like, these death stare eyes. And you really never know what to expect. So, of course, he's upset because he overheard her at Benny's tow truck company say to not go into business with War. And he's like, Candy, why would you say that? Well, what else did you tell him? I know you told him something else. And she's like, no, seriously, I didn't tell him anything because I just told him don't go into business with you because I was trying to protect him. I didn't want him to get hurt. Okay. So anyways, he is like threatening her, and he's like, I ought to just really just knock you out or get rid of you right now. And then lo and behold, lo and behold, the doorbell rings, and she is saved by the bell, and she says, come in, come in. Like, please, I need a witness. So, of course, it's Erica that walks in. Now, all this time, I've been thinking that Erica and Ward know each other, but actually, there's a little bit more to the story. So, anywho, Ward tells Candace, hey, can you walk me to the door? So she walks him to the door, and he was like, look here, you got 48 hours. Since you want to play games, and I can't trust you to keep your mouth shut, you now have 48 hours to get me my money, or else it's lights out. It's done. Okay, so then she comes back in. Erica looks very uneasy. Candace peeps that out, so she says, what's going on? Well, apparently, War has mutilated a woman before because she owed him and she didn't pay him back, and that woman was Erica's sister, Jasmine, I believe her name was. So Erica is like terrified at this point, like shaking, because she knows he's done this to her own sister. She's already lost somebody she loved, and her and Candace have a pretty decent relationship. So he's like, you know what? She's like, you know what? We really got to get this taken care of. Here's the mortgage papers. You need to go down here and you need to get this money. And she says, well, I mortgaged these properties, for my family. And she said, exactly. You mortgaged them. You did all this. So you need your money back. Sorry, it's either your loyalty or your family, or to your family or your life. And then she goes, okay, well, I have to go get my son. And Erica is thinking the same thing that all of us are thinking. What do you mean you have to get your son? Candace, a part of being a good mother is making sure that your kid is not only well taken care of, but that they're safe and they feel safe at all times. This dude just shows up at your house at any given moment. And the next time he shows up, I highly doubt he's going to continue doing these threatening pop-up visits. I'm telling you, he's probably going to kill you. This time he slapped you around. Would you want your young son to see that? Okay, so she says, no, I need my son. I've been away from him all these years. And Erica reveals that, hey, I have kids, but I know that they're better off with my dad and my stepmom. So I just let it be. She says, this is all about your ego right now. So I'm just gonna, let you have this moment. And it's true. It is about her ego. Okay, so really don't know where to go from here, where the scene jumps, but let's just go to another part of the show. So, David driving around looking for Maggie. David shows up to the jail, and he's like basically telling Jim once again for the 50,000th time Jen, please call off whatever you have going on. David, I don't even know why you're wasting your time. Like, he's not going to call it off. And you know this. Anything you say is not going to scare him or convince him to call it off. So whatever the case, he says, okay, well, if I get a phone call that something happened to my wife, I'm going to kill you. Yeah. David, you're just so much talk. Whatever. Anywho, so then we have, Veronica, she shows up to her house. She knows the guy is inside her house waiting to kill her. So she goes and runs a few errands. This errand consists of her going over to Candace's house. And she goes into Candace's house. She pulls up at the same time as Jeffrey. They go inside. She tells Jeffrey, you're going to do as I say. You and Melissa are going to get married. You're going to have this baby. And you guys are going to come live with me. You will not be living here. And then she says, well, I need to talk to you guys about Quincy. And then she says, what about? But she's not talking about Quincy the whole time. She's basically telling Jeffrey, this is how you're going to live your life. This is how I'm regaining control. And you're going to do it or else. So then she starts putting this liquid all over the floor and the wall. I knew it was something that was going to reveal the murder or something. I thought it was blood was gonna start seeping through the floors and the walls or something. I don't know. I watched too much crazy stuff on TV. But anyways, and so then all of a sudden she walks out and she says, okay, well, I will see you soon. So then Candace is looking around and she's a little confused. Next thing you know, she turns off the light. Bam, blood everywhere. Some type of special chemical or something that shows like the stains, the splatters, the handprints everywhere. Even though they tried to clean it up with bleach. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you're going to have to get new walls and floors. You're going to have to tear everything up. You're going to have to burn the house down. So, which it could be kind of smart. She could burn it down, get the insurance money. You could have paid war, or you could have just some change. Perhaps you should do that. Okay. Whatever the case. So, let's cut from that. Now, let's go to the scene with, Wyatt. Wyatt's in the hotel room. He's unconscious. All the people that are partying with him are like, deuces, I'm not about to be getting caught up in this. Still, they'll party with you when you're on an up and up. When you're high. In other words, but when you're down and you're at your lowest point, like barely breathing, at the bottom, just suffocating, like no air, then people want to disappear on you. Check that. Okay. Anyway, so that's basically exactly what happened to Wyatt. Meanwhile, Catherine is going crazy looking for Wyatt, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's not picking up the phone. She shows up to Jennifer, the DA's office, and she says, you need to call my son. Call him now. I'm not playing with you. He's not picking up his phone. And then she said, did you do something to him? She said, no, you did something to him. This is what Catherine is saying to Jennifer, the DA. So whatever the case, Jennifer is kind of scared. She's not going to admit it, but she kind of is. She calls Wyatt, doesn't pick up the phone. So then Catherine basically says, you better find my son or I will kill you. I will make sure everything is burned down to the ground over my son. So then Catherine leaves out. Jennifer is flipping out. She's having people search for Wyatt. Wyatt's not picking up the phone. She's really worried. Like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, am I really responsible for this? Okay. Whatever the case, they end up finding Wyatt in the hotel room later, and he doesn't have a pulse. I'm not a medical assistant or anything medical related in the medical field, so I don't really know if he can come back from this. Okay, so whatever the case. Now let's get to like the really, 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 really good part of the episode. Emotional. So Candace shows up over to, Hannah shows up over to Candace's house. This is because she's upset because she can't get her grandson from the hospital because now he is in Candace's custody and Candace needs to go pick him up from the hospital. Okay, so basically she goes inside. She goes off on Candace and Benny because the grandpa of the little girl that was killed was inside and they're meeting with a lawyer and they're trying to sue the Criers and all of this stuff. She tells the lawyer to get out the house as if this is her house. And I'm looking like, Candace, this is not your house. And even, Hannah, this is not your house. And even Candace says, this isn't your house. You can't tell him what to do. And she says, get out. And the thing I've noticed, as much as Candace has like disrespect to her mother or may not care for her mother, she still has some level of respect for her, and she like there is an ounce of her that loves her and hates her at the same time as her mother, because she would have flipped out on anybody else if they would have been giving orders in her house. But she still somewhat respects the fact that that's her mother, so she didn't push it too much. Okay, so she's going back and forth. She's saying Candace is a con. This isn't legit. You don't need any money from these people, Benny. They pay all your medical bills. And she said, of course they paid it, because their son almost killed him, so it's basically covering up. Like, you still need to get your money's worth. And she said that was their way of paying us. But then again, Candace, I don't like the way you think, because really he shouldn't have been in the hospital to begin with. So that was what they owed us. But now for the emotional distress that it's had on the whole family, and he was out of work for that period of time, no, he needs to get paid. Okay, so anyways, they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then Candace says, well, let me do what I really came over here to do. So then she proceeds to get on her knees. Whoa, before all of this, she says she said that Candace had conned or blackmailed Jim Cryer, and that is why she has this house and bought all that stuff. Okay, sorry. Okay, anyways, so then she gets down on her knees. And it's weird how she switched this up. I'm thinking maybe you should have started with this. Maybe you should have put your feelings to the side and just came in and started with the whole getting down on your knees and literally begging, please, I want my grandson. I need my grandson. I just want him to have a normal life. Candace, I love him so much. He has been living in that like pit with that woman for all these years. He needs to know, he needs to have a nap time, he needs to have a bedtime, he needs to have some type of routine or schedule, he needs to be able to feel safe, he needs to be healthy, he needs to go to church, he needs a social life, he needs to have a happy, normal, sane life, and he can have that with me. Just let me have him. Please don't come in between that. And all of this breaking down, crying and everything, just like groveling for her grandson, showing I love him this much. Can you please at least give him a chance to live a normal life? Because in all these years, he hasn't. You've had him from place to place, and I'm begging you. And Candace responds back, no, I would rather him live in a foster home with strangers than live with you. And most people will argue, whoo, that is cold-blooded. But at the same time, Candace, in her defense, she's probably thinking, well, look how I turned out. I'm pretty messed up, okay? We have a horrible relationship. And perhaps it wasn't always like that, but at some point it turned that way. And she's probably scared of that for her kid. And she can't even get along with her mother. She doesn't want to see her mother have that happiness with her son that she should have. And in her mind, she's thinking, well, you can't love your own daughter. How in the world can you love my son? So I understand both sides, and it's really sad. But, you know, Candace puts on this hard coat, this like, this shell, and she, you know, makes it seem like, you know, I don't care. But then Hannah slaps her. So then Candace, she holds her face for a while, and then she snaps back on her and slaps her. Candace slaps her. Benny has to break them up. They're going back and forth. She's like yelling at Candace, and she's like, I'm done with you. I'm not praying for you anymore. On this day, the day that you hit me, I am done with you. God told me to stop. And I'm like, you know, God forgives people all the time. So, you know, whatever. And so she's going back and forth. She's like, I'm done with you. And this whole time, Candace is crying. And, you know, I can't tell if it's like tears of anger or if it's tears of sadness or if she understands or she feels like, man, there is some truth to what this woman is saying. I don't know, but it was a very emotional moment, and I just feel like they're always going to clash. They're always going to butt heads, and it's just really sad to watch. But whatever the case, Hannah ends up leaving. The social worker lady comes to the house. She says, here's your money. It was only $55,000. And she says, should I tell your son you're on your way? Candace is like, get out of my face. So I think there's a part of Candace that's struggling on the inside, that's thinking, should I let my son go with my mother to give him a chance at a better life, a normal life? It might not be like living in luxury like Candace, lives, but she has to do bad things to get to that point, but at least he'll have somewhat of a normal life. So I think that she's really thinking back and forth, like battling with that in her mind, because in a way that would be like her mother winning. Okay, so whatever the case, she did not give the social worker an answer. She just said, get out of my face. To wrap this up, basically, Veronica sets Maggie up to come to her house while the police are there. She's outside talking to the police. She unlocks the door. She then tells Maggie, oh, hey, Maggie, go ahead, go inside. She knows as soon as she opens the door, the shooter's going to shoot. And sure enough, she turns around to look, and as soon as she opens the door, pow. Screen black. To be continued until June. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Check